What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today we are going to be taking a look at the 10 most used exotic weapons in Destiny 2 for PvE. Now, it's been a while since I made a video like this, and the meta has changed significantly. Also, usage rates are always really interesting because they give you an unbiased look at the meta. You or I may think a certain exotic weapon is cracked out of its mind, but no one's actually using it. And so, let's get started. But just before we do, this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. If you're thinking, Rick, do you really play Raid? Bro, I'm playing every single day trying to get the mighty Uko Fragment summon. I'm winning tournaments, bro. If I'm in your bracket, watch out. Now, back when the game launched in 2018, there was a trash one-star champion, Death Knight, who amassed a cult following. People would max him out and joke that he was a secret legendary. So the devs actually listened and introduced Ultimate Death Knight, a brand new legendary champion, and this guy is nuts. He single-handedly changed the PvP meta, mostly because he has a passive where he will absorb the damage that other champions are supposed to take. I personally use him on the Spider Dungeon. See all these little tiny spiders attacking my guy? Well, Death Knight's absorbing the damage, so I just make him as tanky as possible. Now that's strategy. But I'll let Death Knight himself explain the best part.
You can get Ultimate Death Knight just by logging in. All you have to do is log in and play Raid for 7 days between now and October 27th, and you'll get Ultimate Death Knight for free. Simple.
Oh, and
want to instantly upgrade any legendary champion to level 50, 5-star Ascension? Just use the code DKRises.
Oh, and the new Awakening feature just went live, where you can take on the Iron Twins Fortress to unlock additional upgrades for your already awesome champions. So guys, if you click the link in the description down below, or use the QR code, you're gonna get a starter pack for new players worth $30, including the free champion Vergis, who's insane. Like, I literally want that guy, so absolutely click that link, use that QR code, and check out Raid Shadow Legends. Alright, now let's start things off with number 10 on the list, and that goes to, surprisingly, the Touch of Malice Exotic Scout Rifle. Now, a quick note about the numbers here. The first one, 0.927%, is the usage rate, the next number is the percent of kills, and the final number is headshots. So the fact that kills and headshots are higher than usage rate means that the people using the Touch of Malice are kind of slaying out with it. But again, this is so surprising. This is a brand new exotic weapon that is the super rare exotic reward for the King's Fall raid. So we think of raids as like endgame activities. Maybe not too many people are doing them. Obviously, that's wrong. Enough people are doing King's Fall to then get the single-digit % chance to actually get this weapon, and are then using it quite a bit to actually put it on this list. So it's not actually surprising, if enough people have it, that it's being used, because wow, this is arguably the best exotic primary in the game right now. It has technically infinite ammo. Once you get down to 1 round in the mag, it will use up your health in exchange for more ammo, but it will also double its damage. So slap on something like the Loreley Splendor Helm that automatically heals you when your health gets low, and you can pop off with this thing. However, the Loreley Splendor was actually nerfed very recently, so potentially we could see the usage rate of this thing go down because the best thing to pair with it also went down. But moving on from there, guys, the next weapon on our list at number 9 is another raid weapon, the Divinity Exotic Trace Rifle. So this is acquired through a lengthy exotic quest involving the Garden of Salvation raid. And again, like, it's a hard process to get. Not that many people actually have it, but those who do are using the crap out of it, obviously, because this is one of the most utilized exotic weapons when it comes to endgame activities, especially raids. If you are fighting a raid boss, someone is using Divinity because its exotic perk is to actually provide a bubble around the target it's shooting, where all your allies will then get precision hits for shooting that bubble and do more damage because it's debuffing the target. It's so good that one of the best players in the game suggested nerfing it, and the entire community tore themselves to shreds, either not wanting to nerf it or wanting to nerf it. Again, feelings are high because this thing is so darn good. However, moving on from there, at number 8 on our list, this one kind of caught me off guard. It's the Osteo Striga exotic submachine gun. This was introduced fairly recently with the Witch Queen expansion, and we see over 1% usage rate and a ton of kills. I mean, look at those kills, not too many headshots, and that's because the exotic perk of this weapon is to have actually seeking bullets, and those bullets will seek a kind of chest, so you won't get as many headshots with it. But also, when you kill enemies, they're going to essentially explode and spread poison to nearby enemies. And if you have the catalyst every time you do that, oh, it'll increase your magazine size to, I mean, you can see in the background gameplay, I have like over 100 rounds pretty often with the Osteo Striga. This is one of the best ad clearing weapons in the entire game. If you're doing any sort of normal difficulty activity, I mean, even up to raids, and you just want to kill red bars, almost nothing is going to do it as well as the Osteo Striga, and I think that's why you see it so high on the list. However, there's a lot of good exotic primaries out there. The fact that this takes kind of the best out of all of them is something you should pay attention to. However, moving on from there, number 7 on our list is actually going to go to a very old weapon, the Izanagi's Burden exotic sniper rifle. So, this is all the way back from the Black Armory DLC. The D2 veterans watching this video know what I'm talking about, but pretty much everyone else just got it from the exotic kiosk. So this has the exotic ability where you can hold reload and it will kind of take an entire magazine's worth of ammo and put it into one super powered shot. And when you do that, it becomes one of the highest damaging weapons in the entire game, and therefore it's used in a ton of endgame DPS strategies. I mean, against the final boss of the Vow of the Disciple raid, this was used a ton. People use it a lot to deal with champions. I mean, you stun them, you smack them with an overload Izanagi's Burden shot, they're pretty much dead. So I'm really not surprised to see this thing so high up on the list. However, often it's used with what's called Izzy rocket swapping, where you kind of swap between loading a super powerful shot in and then shooting an auto-loading rocket and going back and forth to have continuous insane damage. That is not a strategy that's utilized in the King's Fall raid, the most relevant raid. So perhaps this was much higher on the list when Vow of the Disciple was the featured raid, and we could continue to see it kind of fall down this list until Izzy rocket swapping becomes meta again. However, moving on from there, at number 6, we have the Trinity Ghoul exotic bow. So this thing is just insane right now, and it definitely wouldn't surprise me if the Osteo Striga was above this thing until Season of Plunder started, and then the Trinity Ghoul kind of took over. And that's because it has the exotic ability where if you get a kill, it's going to overcharge the next round, and as long as you have the catalyst, if you get a kill with that overcharged, shocking next round, as you can see in the background gameplay, it loads another overcharged round into it, which means you can chain again and again and again, and it is one of the best primaries in the entire game for clearing ads. I said the same thing about the Striga. It's right up there, but the Trinity Ghoul is Arc. And with Arc 3.0 dropping this season, everyone is trying to use those new Arc builds, those incredible seasonal artifact mods that make those builds better, and obviously the Trinity Ghoul can, make Arc Elemental Wells, benefit from Font of Might, all of that stuff, so it totally makes sense to see it so high on this list. However, moving on from there at number 5, this one really surprises me. The Xenophage exotic machine gun. Now, this thing has the exotic perk that makes it have explosive rounds, essentially infinite range, but a much slower fire rate than other machine guns. And again, I'm so surprised to see this thing on the list because I'm not using the Xenophage very much. The only time I can think of is recently with the Master King's Fall raid. I was using it in the Totems Encounter challenge. It was very good there. But aside from that, and that seems pretty niche, not too much. But obviously people are using this thing, and it does somewhat make sense because machine guns in general got a massive buff a couple of seasons ago where they deal 40% more damage to every enemy out there, except for bosses where they only deal 20%. However, Xenophage is exempt from that buff, so it's doing its normal damage against bosses. Undoubtedly though, this is a powerful weapon. Every single shot is devastating. It absolutely crunches powerful enemies, especially when you combine it with the Wrath of Rasputin Warmind Cell mod. For only 1 energy, every single shot is solar splash damage, so you will be pumping out Warmind Cells. One potential reason why this is so high on the list is that with the launch of Season of Plunder, Bungie actually made every single DLC free for a limited amount of time, and the loot you earned you could actually keep. So perhaps a lot of people went and did the Xenophage exotic quest, got it for the first time ever without even buying the Shadowkeep expansion, and are now using it quite a bit. Maybe that's the missing piece of the puzzle. However, we have to move on from there to number 4 on our list. Another machine gun, this one makes a lot more sense. It's the Thunderlord exotic machine gun. Now, look at the difference between usage rate and kills. A little bit over 2% usage rate, massive amount of kills and headshots, so this thing is slaying out. Now, this recently got a massive boost in power thanks to a brand new exotic catalyst. So if you're using the Thunderlord, as you hold the trigger, it's going to shoot faster and faster, and against a single target, lightning strikes will come down from the sky doing even more damage. And as you hold the trigger, the rate of fire will increase, doing even more damage, and the catalyst will automatically reload the magazine every time there's a lightning strike. And if you kill targets like red bars, it will still cause those lightning strikes, killing everything nearby. So unbelievably powerful against red bar enemies, wiping out rooms of ads, and also the best machine gun in the entire game for DPS output on a single target. It did get the 20% boss damage buff, so this thing slaps so hard. So it really doesn't surprise me that this is so high on the list. If you haven't been using Thunderlord, especially if you did get that catalyst, 100% worth leveling it up, putting it on, and trying this thing out. So darn good. Oh, and I almost forgot, it also recently, just this season, got intrinsic overload rounds. So if you're doing something like Master Ketchcrash where you're going to run into some overload champions, throw this thing on. It really pairs well with a lot of Arc 3.0 builds, and there you also have a champion type covered as well without having to put on any mods, spend any energy. But guys, moving on from there, coming in at number 3, it's actually the Witherhoard exotic grenade launcher with an absolutely insane nearly 4% of the exotic weapon kills. A bit of a spoiler, but this is the highest kills percent we have on this entire list. So this beats out number 2 and number 1. That shows you just how deadly the Witherhoard is. So this has the exotic perk that turns its grenade launcher shot into a damage over time area of effect shot. And holy crap, the things you can do with this weapon are nuts. Shoot it where enemies are spawning, you devastate all of them. Hit a more powerful target, it will continuously tick down and do damage to them. And therefore, not only is the Witherhoard one of the best ad clearing weapons in the entire game, but it's also used in very high level single target damage strategies. I mean, if you're using, for example, the Taipan, arguably the best DPS outputting linear fusion rifle heavy, if you shoot that target with a Witherhoard and then switch to your Taipan, you can be doing damage with that Taipan and absolutely chunking them while the Witherhoard is ticking down in the background for even more damage. So this thing sees play in lower level content, strikes, whatever, all the way up to Grandmasters. I've used it quite a bit there. You know, day 1 raids, you name it, the Witherhoard is always present. Again, just because of its utility, because of how unique it is arguably the best exotic weapon in the game. But it's only number 3 in the usage chart. So let's move on from there to the number 2 slot, and that goes to the Gjallarhorn exotic rocket launcher. I'm sure a lot of you guys expected this to be in number 1. I know I did, because this weapon is absolutely incredible. So when you get a hit with this thing, it spreads out additional Seeking Wolfpack rounds for an insane increase to damage. And if your teammates are using legendary rocket launchers, you're gonna give Wolfpack rounds to them. So it is used in endgame DPS strategies. One person uses the Gjallarhorn, everyone else uses the best legendary rockets they can find, and you can schmelt bosses. But not only that, in general purpose gameplay, strikes, Dares of Eternity, it's broken beyond belief, even up to Grandmasters. I use the Gjallarhorn in Grandmasters all the time. It is so good at single target damage and clearing out massive groups of enemies. It just does it all. Funny enough, it was actually doing a bit too much in PvP and Gambit, and Bungie nerfed it, taking away its proximity detonation. But that actually made it better in PvE, because now it gets direct impact damage, whereas before it didn't. So it's just hitting harder in PvE. So yeah, Gjallarhorn's absolutely insane. And again, I'm really surprised it's not at number 1, especially because with the launch of Season of Plunder, if you got Destiny 2 on the Epic Game Store, the 30th anniversary DLC was free, and that's where the Gjallarhorn comes from. So I'm sure you saw a huge increase in the amount of people who have the Gjallarhorn. So what the heck is at number 1? Well, it actually goes to the Arbalest exotic linear fusion with 4.54% overall usage rate in PvE, not even close to the amount of kills we've been seeing for the last several weapons. Actually, less kills than the Xenophage even, but an insane amount of headshots, and really, this weapon is used because of the utility. The exotic perk is going to make this primary weapon deal significantly more damage against enemy shields. Not only that, it comes automatically with Disruption Break. So if you break a shield with the Arbalest, then you do more damage with said Arbalest. And the Catalyst gives it Genesis, so when you break a shield, automatically reloads its entire magazine. Oh, and it has intrinsic anti-barrier rounds. So against anything with barrier champions, the Arbalest is just the go-to. Like, in match game content, most endgame content has match game. Just put on the Arbalest. It will deal with every single element of shield and the champions you find. Oh, and it does pretty reasonable DPS for the boss at the end. So like legendary lost sectors, absolutely fantastic. With all that being said though, I'm still a bit surprised to see it so high on the list, because this is one of the best Grandmaster exotics in the entire game. I think arguably you could just say in terms of overall usage, in terms of how versatile it is, if you're doing Grandmasters, the Arbalest is just the best exotic in the game. Just throw on your loadout, as long as there are barrier champions in that particular Grandmaster. But Grandmasters aren't live yet. They go live on October 4th. So, like, that is where I would expect to see the Arbalest shoot up in usage and be number 1, is during Grandmaster time. But we're seeing that before they've even dropped. So people are just using this in, again, solo lost sectors, maybe just normal nightfalls, potentially raids. Like, I'm really surprised to see it here, but at the same time, not surprised, because the Arbalest is so darn good. But that is it for the list, guys. Is there anything that you think deserves to be on this list? What is the one exotic weapon you are most surprised isn't on this list? Let me know in the comment section down below. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this content. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.